welcome to my 3-day small steps to weight loss challenge. And these are really 3 smallish steps that we're going to kick off with. Over the next 3 days, I've got so much goodness in store for you. And as we get people coming through, I'm just going to make sure that I can see, comment, tell me where you're from, say hello. I want to make sure that the comments are working because sometimes they don't work on the phone, but they work in my on my computer. So I've got both screens. If you see my eyes darting from screen to screen, it's because I want to make sure I'm connecting and I can see all of you. So let's check them. Let's see. All right. Say hello, tell me where you're from. I would love to connect with you. Okay, we have Silvana. Hello, Silvana. So exciting. Hi, Juanita. Hi, Christy. Sally. Yay. Hi, Ashley. Hello, Holly. All the beautiful people here today. Hi, Gina, another fellow Gina. I love that. Amazing. Hi, Danielle. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Demelza. All my beautiful Zero to Thrive participants from January's round are here. So good to hear from you and see you, although I'm always in the group and I see you guys commenting and I'm commenting back. So it's not like we have, no contact with each other and I still get to see you. Lots of love. Hello. All right. First of all, I just want to say one massive thank you for all your love, all your prayers. It's been the craziest weekend for me. Just a crazy time in general, I have to say. But that's life. Life will throw you curveballs. And one of the biggest things that I actually love to teach and coach is actually prepare for these curveballs, because it's a fallacy to think that nothing will ever not go your way, nothing will go wrong, and you won't be derailed from your journeys, because you will. And one of the biggest things I teach in my program, my Zero to Thrive program, or with my clients that I work one-on-one with, is you've always got to have contingencies in place to set yourself up, because failure will occur, or you will be thrown, from here to over there, and you're going to have to find your way back from there to back here at some point. So life threw me a curveball, but we have dealt with it as best as we can, and we will continue to deal with it as we can. A little update for all of you who care so much. Thank you. My husband, on our weekend getaway, 2 minutes into our trip, as soon as we got out of the car, I'm not laughing, but I'm kind of laughing. I'm sure it's something we will laugh about afterwards. He fell and ended up breaking his ankle actually in 3 places and dislocating it. Big overachiever, I say. And we were in the middle of not being close to home. So he is still in hospital awaiting surgery. We thought it was going to happen sooner, and which is why I didn't postpone this masterclass. I obviously will always put my family first. So please know that I definitely considered. However, he's just hanging out there waiting for surgery, and it's probably not going to be until Wednesday. So I'm here because I need your energy just as much as I would like to give you mine as well. And the show will go on because we've got a journey together to do. And so I'm excited for that. So guys, for the next 3 days, you're going to get to work with me, and I'm going to support you every step of the way. I'm going to give you a little bit of theory, but I'm also going to take you through the techniques and tips and tricks that essentially have helped me in my own personal weight loss journey. So even though I'm a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach, so I've done the education piece, so to speak, I also have been where many of you have been or are still in. I know what it feels like to struggle on a weight loss journey. I've been there, and I've also seen how beautiful it can be on the other side of the struggle. And I've stayed in the beauty side of the struggle now for well over maybe 15, 16 years now. So the thing is ultimately I had to do the work to get to a place where I could sustain and maintain the beauty. I didn't want to keep going back in that yo-yo repeated cycle of struggle and weight loss and weight gain and weight loss and weight gain. And so I had to do a lot of education. I had to do a lot of a journey. It wasn't quick. There was no quick fixes. It was slow. And when I was in that journey, I didn't go, oh, I'm going to be a coach in this, because I was too young. But over the years, after retiring from dance sport, I kind of fused a lot of my dancing space into fitness, and have evolved more into the coaching space and fitness space. And here I am, nearly sort of 15, 16 years later, now realizing that my journey is now, my mess is now my message. Whatever I went through back then is now the way I coach with my clients, and what worked for me and combined with my education is now how I teach to you guys. And I'm so excited to be here, and I hope you are too, to learn something today, to empower yourselves today. So day one of this challenge, basically the 3 key steps. This challenge is all about the 3 key steps, the foundational steps, the things you cannot look over before you move on to the next step. So many of us want to go and start looking at, what time should I be eating? What supplements should I be taking? Is this powder okay for me? When really we need to work out, okay, but are you nailing the base of your house, or are you trying to build a roof on a faulty foundation? And so this 3-day challenge really for me is sharing a little bit, a taster of that foundation. Okay, so day one, we're gonna kick off with, there are lots of pieces in the puzzle. The thing is, most people want to talk about weight loss. They want to specifically only focus on how many calories you eat. Or on the flip side, it's what you're eating. And let's eliminate half of what you're eating and you eat this, don't eat that, and eat this only. Or it's all about being intuitive and let's just see how you go. Multifactorial piece the weight loss journey is. So I like to tackle all of them, as many as I can. And the 3 foundations today, first of all, the 3 foundations we're going to be talking about, the 3 key steps, is day one is going to be the piece, which is the first piece is, okay, so how much do we actually need to eat in terms of weight loss? Day 2 is going to be the what piece, because yes, quantity matters, but so does quality, okay? And so day 2 is going to be the what, because I know everybody today is going to want to know all the answers, but I don't work like that. So you're going to have to pace yourself, work in these small step phases, and go with the flow with me. So we're going to talk about day 2 is going to be the what piece, and day 3 is then going to come back to that mindfulness, because so many of us, and I hear it and I see it, mindlessly snack, mindlessly eat, aren't present with their meals, and realize they've gotten to the bottom of the empty chip bag before they even knew it. Who's been there? I've been there. Just mindlessly watching TV and then realize there's no more chips in the bag. I know that feeling. And so I want to try and kind of give you a little bit of knowledge over these next 3 days to kind of start for you to build that foundation. So let's journey together, all right? So ultimately though, the biggest thing and the biggest piece that I want to say is that anything that I teach comes from being empowered with knowledge. And I'm not a wing it type of person. I want to have a strategic approach to anything. And so I don't treat the weight loss journey any differently. Okay, the weight loss journey needs to be strategic, one that has to have a plan. When you wing it and you try things left, right, and center and see what sticks, unfortunately, when you do chop and change like that, that's when it always feels like I'm starting again on Monday. Who feels like they're constantly starting again on Monday? I want to see you guys comment while I have a sip of water as well. Do I see some yeses? There's a little bit of delay. Yes, I see some yeses coming through. Okay, yes, too frequently. Lucinda says Stacy, Kathy, me. Oh yes, Sally. Always starting every Monday. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, more Mondays than I recall. I have been there. I've done that. And so today I kind of want to empower you to my life story. And as I said to you, hand up, I've been where you've been. I know this feeling, so I can absolutely relate. Weekends are hard. Okay, well, we're going to touch on weekends in today's chat. The thing is, when we're empowered with knowledge about the food we eat, rather than having our head in ostrich mode, I like to call it, where your head's in the sand, when you're actually empowered with the knowledge of the food you eat, you will make better choices every single day. And really, it's when you finally understand that it is a whole ecosystem that contributes to your weight loss. It's a multitude of factors. It's not just how much and eat the right amount of calories and you'll lose weight. That's not going to give you the long-term sustainability factor piece because you haven't worked out the what and the how much and the how you eat. So there are multi-factors that come into play. When you've worked on all of the factors, you can finally say goodbye to starting on Monday, diets, plans that only really address the surface level. You guys, it's time to go a little deeper than that, okay? So a lot of my program, a lot of my coaching methods, yes, we work on the practical side of things. I empower you with knowledge. You have to do the specific work. Yes, you might need to calculate your calorie requirements for you as an individual. You might need to track your protein, etc. But you also need to do the mindset work to stop the self-sabotage, to abandon the timelines, to not expecting things to happen fast, to develop patience, adherence, and consistency. And to have the motivation to keep going, not when it's good, but when you find it's hard. These are the things that I develop in that program. But today, we've only got enough time to kind of start to get this going. All right. I pretty much have no idea how much to eat. My husband always thinks I need to eat more. So Diane, today's going to be perfect for you, okay? So let's start feeling empowered about this. Today, I'm going to dive into the first key foundational step I said, and that is the how much piece in the equation. But I'm also going to address specifically the five most common mistakes I see as a personal trainer and nutrition coach when it comes to most people's approach to the how much we eat. And when you hear these mistakes, hopefully you might even resonate with them. And with each one, I'm going to give you a little bit of a tip to be able to kind of move away from making these mistakes and keep making these mistakes. That's what we want to move you away from, okay? And move you towards a better mindset approach and a better approach in general. Okay, a little bit of theory here. How much do we really need to lose weight? How much do we need to eat to really lose weight? That's probably going to be the question that all of you are asking. Now, when it comes to weight loss, scientifically, there is only one way to achieve that, and that's a calorie deficit, okay? Most people know what a calorie deficit, some have no idea what a calorie deficit, so we're gonna very, very, very briefly, in layman's terms, explain what a calorie deficit is. It is the equation you might normally hear, calories in versus calories out. It is the law of thermodynamics, and I'm not gonna get into the science part of it because let's not get this over our head. We wanna clearly understand what's going on. But we do need to understand what a calorie deficit is, because when you understand that, then you can start to begin to understand the how much piece. So just as distance is measured in miles or temperature is in degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit, energy is measured in calories, or it can be kilojoules as well. And your body needs a certain amount of energy aka calories, to survive. Okay, but not only just to survive, to do all the things you love to do, to play with your kids, go shopping, exercise, walk around, all of those things. You need energy. Your body expends energy when you eat food as well, okay? And so that if you consume more energy than your body uses consistently over time, okay? The word I want you to pay attention to, words I should say, is consistently over time. Because it's not the one meal you ate too many calories in. It if you consume more calories consistently over time than your body uses, then that is called a calorie surplus, and that is when weight gain usually occurs, okay? It is not the one meal. I want to really emphasize that, because most people get freaked out when they overeat one meal and don't see the big picture. But if you consume less than your body needs to survive, do all the things you need to do, it will essentially use the potential energy stored, which is your fat, up to make the difference. Because if you're consuming less but your body's using energy, it needs to find it from somewhere. So it starts to use the potential energy it has from your body, which is your calories on your body. And that's what fat really is. It's just potential energy for your body to use and expend. So consuming less energy consistently over time is what we call a calorie deficit. It's intaking less than we need to output, okay? And a deficit does not have to last forever, just long enough for some of that potential energy stored on your body to be used up, just long enough to start the process and the experience of weight loss, okay? Or fat loss, I should say. So how do we know if we're in a calorie deficit? Now, there are various methods to getting into a calorie deficit. Some people might use intermittent fasting or eliminating food groups, like, going low carb keto, because what happens is fasting literally will mean you eat one meal less a day, which will be made up of X amount of calories, however that meal is. And therefore, if you take that out of your day, well, you're most likely going to be in a calorie deficit because you're going to be consuming less than you're outputting, okay? That's one way. Eliminating food groups. If you're eliminating entire food groups, which mind you is to me a little bit miserable, I'm going to get into that. But if you are, and if that's your preference and it's working for you, then please keep doing what works for you. But that can be another way, because essentially when you eliminate a whole bunch of foods from your diet, you're also eliminating a whole bunch of calories. And that's how you would get into a calorie deficit. There's no miracle factor to those, and so much research. I'm a research geek. I love really coming back to evidence and science-based approaches. And it always comes back to this. It really doesn't matter if you eliminate food groups or what have you. The ultimate underlying factor is that you were in a calorie deficit. Okay? How you get there differs. My personal favorite, and one that I used because I wanted to, again, come back to that empowering myself with the nutritional values of food and education around food. My favorite personal short-term tool, I emphasize short-term, is tracking your calories using an app with an individualized calorie deficit calculation created for you, okay? And we're going to get into one of the first common mistakes around this piece of trying to control how much. But I want to just explain to you why I do prefer and why it's my favorite tool to track your calories and to track your intake. Because for me, long-term success only comes from understanding food education and nutritional education. It's a powerful way when you know what's going into your body. When you know what is going out and what is going in, when you know how many calories is in the bag of nuts that you just devoured, you might make different decisions about what you do with that. When you know how much protein is in this food versus this food, you might choose one over the other. And so for me, nutrition education comes down to really just understanding it. I see tracking your calories as a data point, a piece of education. And I'm going to liken this to essentially tracking your finances as a really great analogy. But ultimately, for me, you cannot ultimately manage what you don't measure. If you have no idea what's going in and what's going out, how do you truly manage this? So this is the method that I used personally all those years ago when I did learn about my own weight loss journey. I stopped with the low carb and the diets that were never going to be sustainable for me because I'm a carb lover, for example. I stopped with the cleansers, I stopped with the powders, I stopped with the diet pills, because ultimately I wasn't learning anything. So I did it the old-fashioned way. I put in the work. Was it tedious? Yes. But was I empowered? Yes. And Do I now know so much more? Yes, and I can make better decisions every single day from then onwards. So for me, ultimately, whatever decision you make, whether this is for you or it isn't for you, and whatever you learn today, you can please take what works for you and take what doesn't. But ultimately, what I want you to ask yourself in anything that you ever do from now on, if this is the only light bulb moment you get, is I want you to always come back to, is it sustainable? Is whatever I'm doing right now sustainable? Can I continue long term? And so when you track your intake, when you learn about food labels, the actual tracking piece is a short-term tool, because ultimately you need to transition away and learn other methods. And I do teach that in my Zero to Thrive program. We don't have time for that here today, but I hope that even learning how to undo some of the mistakes you might be making will already give you day one of your journey now to make a change. So really, ultimately, tracking your calories is a really short-term approach. I emphasize the short term because, again, I want you to be able to, once you know the values, you don't need to keep repeatedly looking at your phone and tracking, etc. And like I said, a good comparison for me is really around tracking your finances. How do you know if you're saving money? How do you know your state of finances if you don't track your spending and if you don't track what's coming in? So once you've tracked your income and expenses for a while on your bank statements, you don't really need to keep coming back to that every single day, because you will know there will be a pattern, right? Once I have the regular same breakfast every day that I know how many calories and what protein's in there, etc., I don't need to keep writing it into my app. I haven't had to do that for such a long time now, because I know what goes into the repetition of it. I know the routine. I know the plan. So once you've tracked your income, you don't need to keep checking your bank statements weekly or even monthly. You might just need to check it from time to time. And this is essentially the way I still see tracking your calories the same. If you're trying to track your finances and you're trying to be more successful in that area, say you want to save up for something, say you want to save up for a car, a house, a bag, whatever it is, it should be no different to, I'm going to track and see what's going on with my nutritional intake and how do I need to optimize that? And similar to that, thinking that calorie counting is the enemy, because let's address the elephant in the room. There is a lot of negative connotation to tracking, like it's some sort of rigid, inflexible, miserable experience. Whereas, yes, it will be if this is what you depend on for the rest of your life and you haven't found a solution or a method to move away from it. Yes, it would be. I mean, if you told me that I had to track forever, absolutely, that would sound miserable, restrictive, and I wouldn't want to do it. But if you know that there is another way to be able to move away from that, and if you can start to see that you're just empowering yourself with the knowledge, this is not the thing you have to do every single day, then you're going to maybe start to see a different approach or a view or a perspective on something that to me is all about education. But not looking at your food intake and not even doing it for a short-term period is like, I don't want to, the same analogy towards your finances, if you were trying to save for something, would be like, I don't want to look at my finances. I don't want to think about what's coming in. I don't want to think about what's going out. I'm just going to wing it. And instead of winging it, what I want for you is to actually have the knowledge to be strategic and as accurate as possible when it comes to the weight loss journey. Now, I think it can often feel like either a punishment or, if you mean, a challenge to get as low as possible. Well, thank you, Diane, for giving me my first common mistake number one. So this leads me to common mistake number one. So now that you know, okay, a calorie deficit is what I need to achieve, I now need a number that might get me there. And I also need to do this for the short term to really understand what's going in, what's going out. And once I get a rhythm, I can move away from this and also empower myself with what to eat, how to eat, etc., which is coming over the next couple of days. The issue is that most commonly, the first mistake I see is people create a deficit that is far too extreme than it needs to be, or they use a blanket number that is not tailored to your specific energy needs. And that is something like joining a program that's 1,200 calories a day for everybody. Doesn't matter what size you are. That's just it. It is 1,200 or whatever it is, without actually it being tailored to you. That is the first common mistake I see when it comes to trying to work out the how much piece, is that everyone tries to go for as low as possible, thinking it's going to be as fast as possible. Is it sustainable? Because can I just remind you of this, is that if you're searching for results, using unsustainable methods will create unsustainable results. But when you use sustainable methods, you create sustainable results. And so by doing this, you're setting yourself up for failure from the start, because of course it's not going to be something that you can stick to long term. You're going to white knuckle your way through it only to give up and feel like a failure and go on a binge. And trust me, I've been there. I know how that feels, where you're thinking this is the method and this is the best way and this is how you're going to get there fast. And you start seeing results because you've got that instant motivation to get started and you can stick to it. But the longer it goes on, the more you find yourself white knuckling it, avoiding so many things, developing a disordered way of eating and approaching your food, and then realizing you can't stick to this. You're a failure. You go miserable. You say, you're such a quitter. You start negative self-talk with yourself and saying, what a loser you are. I have said all of the above to myself, but it's actually not you. It's the method you're using. It's not you. You are not the failure. The method has failed you. And so setting yourself up for failure from the start by going too far, too extreme, and using a blanket calorie number that just works for a whole bunch of people without being tailored to you, unfortunately isn't going to set you up right. So this is the number one common mistake I see. Sustainability, guys, is the core of everything I teach. Again, always come back to what's sustainable. Now, the goal for my clients is always to actually be on the highest amount of calories. And if you've done my Zero to Thrive program, and anyone who's here, you can write to everyone else. When they get their number, they go, what are you talking about? This is way too many calories. And yet they still lose weight. Because the problem is that most people think that you need to go as low as possible, when in actual fact, I want to keep you as high as possible and you can still be in a deficit. I want you to be able to eat the most amount of food you can while still losing weight, not the least, okay? Does this mean that this is slower? Yes. Yes, it does. But does this mean that it is achievable, sustainable? Yes, also it does. So I'm of being in the sustainable camp. I don't care about timelines. I abandoned all of my timelines because what happens is when you give yourself a timeline and you don't achieve it by that timeline, you essentially think that the method has failed you. But what you actually haven't done is committed to adhering, being consistent, and being patient with the results. So for me, if you want fast weight loss, like 8 kilos in 8 days, never join one of my programs, please, because I'm not going to be that person for you. But what I do want you to do is you to eventually lose that 8 kilos, for example, but never find it again. So the goal for me is to start off with, if you're trying to find a calorie deficit, go for as high amount of food as you can, okay? Because also be mindful that, yes, it is. A weight loss journey is not a sprint, but a marathon. Absolutely, Rachel. What I want you to be mindful of is that also once you start losing weight, the number that you've got for your deficit may no longer become a deficit for you. It might become your maintenance level because you have actually in body size also reduced in weight. So therefore your energy is expending less. And so the amount that you need to intake might need to be adjusted to become less as well. Now, if you're starting as low as possible to begin with, where do you have to go from there? Not very far. Hence why it becomes miserable. Absolutely miserable. It becomes the pits. So if you're starting at 1,200 calories, what are you going to go to 1,000, 800, 900? Whereas if you're starting really super high, then you can in slow increments really gently decrease that deficit over time, and it will actually feel doable. And that's really exciting when I see that happen for my clients. Now, be mindful that if you're racing off to join MyFitnessPal, because we are going to do a little bit of a mini challenge today. I'm after this chat every day, today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. well, it might be Tuesday for where you are, the end of the challenge. Every day I'm going to be leaving you with a mini challenge to do and a check-in that evening, my evening, to keep you accountable to actually making the action. There's no point in just listening to this chat and not actually trialing and doing the work, okay? Because at the end of the day, it always comes down to readiness to work and make that change. So there's going to be a little challenge for you at the end of this, so hold your horses. But if you're somebody who's going to, sign up to MyFitnessPal because you're going to start tracking your calories, just be mindful that as soon as you do that, a lot of those apps will spit out the lowest amount of calories for you, which is what you might have seen in the past. And whether it's MyFitnessPal or any other app where you calculate your calorie deficit, unfortunately, the questions that get you to get that answer aren't very good. And one of those questions is, how much do you want to lose and how quickly do you want to lose it? And I've never met a person, including myself, that back in the day, I didn't put the highest amount of highest amount of weight loss per week in the shortest amount of time. Who says yes to this? If you could put like 1 kilo a week, if that was the maximum that you could write, or if you could put 2 kilos a week in like 1 month, would you write that? Would it be always the highest amount of kilograms or pounds per week in the shortest amount of time? Let me know while I have another sip of my water. Yes, you would. So naturally, the algorithm will spit out the lowest amount of calories for you to then consume. Because guess what? If you're telling this app that you want to lose X amount of weight, the largest amount of weight in the shortest amount of time, it's naturally not going to take into account any other aspect. Then we just must give her the least amount of calories possible. Okay? So this is what happens. Therefore, why often you will see 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500 calories come spit out at you, because it doesn't really take into account anything else but she wants to lose the most amount of weight in the shortest amount of time. So I'm going to get back to what I want you to input in a second. What's the alternative? So we'll come back. Don't worry, we're going to loop back around. But I want to leave you with this. Did you know that you only need to eat 200 calories less? 200, that's one snack less per day to lose 9 kilos, which is, I think, 18 pounds in a year. That was found in a study as well. That it is, yes, it is slower but consistent weight loss. Only 200 calories less per day to have 9 kilos less over a year. Now, over a year seems like a forever time because we're sold that quick fix, like 9 kilos in 9 weeks, mentality. We want instant gratification as humans. But wouldn't it be amazing to do that 9 kilos eating everything you eat now, just 200 calories less? Like, that seems to me so much more doable than all of a sudden needing to go to the lowest amount of possible. So the bottom line to this, common mistake number 1, going too far to extreme or using a blanket, calorie number. In reality, we want to keep you at the highest amount, and sometimes the smallest amount of calories less in your day can ignite the fat loss journey without you having to try that much. So you don't actually have to starve yourself to be in a calorie deficit. And I can attest to that, to the people who've been in my Zero to Thrive program and including myself. I ate so much and I lost weight because I didn't buy into this idea that I had to be eating the least amount possible. And it took me a lot longer, but I never struggled in the sense of that yo-yo repeat approach. I finally did it. I had ups and downs, don't get me wrong, challenges all along the way, always. But I finally found a way to keep it consistent. And it was done over the long term. There was no timeline. I didn't have to lose it by any date. And I eventually lost 25 kilos, 50 pounds. And I never put it back on again. So this is the thing. I want you to really be mindful that even if the one thing you get out of this out of this call is that you don't go and seek out the lowest amount of calories ever again, okay? You can go a lot higher. And Becky's going, so how many calories should each meal contain? There's no specific amount of calories per meal, Becky, but there is going to be an individual calorie amount for you. And that's the thing. There is no blanket, how many calories you should eat is different for every single human here. I have a calculation that I created for my program, but I'm going to give you, even though you won't have access to that today, I'm going to give you a tool to get you into a deficit after using my challenge, the mini challenge that I'm going to give you today. So let's move on to number 2 because we've still got 4 more to go. Number 2 common mistake, undereating that leads to overeating. People try to undereat, okay, and overeat in the long run. Most people struggle with nighttime snacking because they're undereating and then end up overeating. So they're trying to control how much they eat all day long or all week long. This can be in a week's or a day process, and then end up overeating, and therefore this constant vicious cycle of ups and downs in the day. Snacking all the time, all that stuff. Eat like a bird all day, thinking that's your way to control your calories and be in a calorie deficit to lose weight, but only end up snacking all night. Who's there? Hands up. I see Rebecca saying, this is me. I don't eat enough during the day. Yes, yes, yes. I'm just going to come back. I ended up being hypothyroid. I have Hashimoto's, so, you know, we love to blame hormonal issues and things like that, but ultimately we need to get these factors into place. So I'm on medication too, and I'm not saying that, what I'm trying to say is it is doable even with hormonal deficiencies. Now, I'm not going to go into that. That's not my area of expertise. I deal with an endocrinologist. I have the experts handling my medications, etc., and how that all works out. But what I want you to be mindful of is that it's still possible for you to be on a weight loss journey despite having these things as well. And it is hard. I'm glad that you've learned what is not sustainable, and that's so important. Rachel, I love that. Okay, so that would be me, the evening snacker. Gina says, me too. Snack, boredom. Okay. Boredom and emotional eating, things like that, we're going to actually cover on day 3, which is where we come to mindful eating. Today is just the physical aspect of physical hunger, okay? So we're just going to talk about that. Your lack, please listen to this very carefully. Your lack of not eating proper, consistent meals and your thought pattern of sort of waking up saying, I'm not really that hungry. I'm just going to have a little coffee and a toast. That'll tie me over. And I'm going to have a really light little salad because it's fresh and clean eating. And, you know, I'm going to be really healthy and eat really little. And then all that happens is when you get home at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, you raid the entire kitchen because you thought you were being so good all day. But your lack of eating proper, consistent meals, not snacks, like a proper meal, is actually the very thing that's making you constantly snack and constantly stuck in this rotation. In the transition away from tracking in my program, with my clients, I help them create a balanced plate, okay? So what a balanced plate is, having all the aspects of your nutrition on your plate. Having your vegetables, having your protein, having your complex carbohydrates, having fats, etc. When you eat the right amounts and you have a piece of all those pieces in the puzzle on your plate at each meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or however many meals you eat, I mean main meals, not snacks. When you eat a balanced plate and you eat the right amounts of all of those components, you end up snacking less. And tomorrow's challenge is going to be more on that, okay? So I'm going to introduce you a little bit to the balanced plate tomorrow. So again, remember, small steps to big change. I can't teach you everything and overwhelm you in one, but your very skipping of meals and thinking you're doing so well by eating less throughout your day is the very thing that's keeping you in this mistake. So first off, Okay, tomorrow's challenge is going to really apply to that because I'm going to give you a challenge around introducing the what aspect and where I want you to up something, a particular thing. So stay tuned. But even today, what you can do is you can acknowledge this and you can start to see, okay, maybe instead of having one piece of toast and a coffee for breakfast, I'm going to sit down and have some eggs, maybe some spinach sauteed with the eggs, maybe some vegetables if you can, or some fruit with some eggs and a whole grain toast and the coffee, and actually sit down and have a proper meal so that in 1 hour I'm not reaching for a bag of chips because I'm starving again, and that was the thing that was convenient right in front of me. So number 2 common most mistake, undereating that leads to overeating. If you're that person, really assess what's happening. And luckily enough, today's challenge is really going to give you that eye-opener as well. So let's keep moving. Common mistake number 3. I think some light bulb moments are going off for a few people around that already. I can see Rosemary saying, wow, yes, your very undereating is leading you to the overeating. So let's stop undereating, and perhaps that might start the initiation of less overeating, okay? Now, yes, there's going to be boredom eating that might not even be related to that. There are other reasons we overeat, okay? We don't have enough time to delve into that. But if you're already somebody who does undereat because you think you're trying to manage your calories better, then you're actually inadvertently doing yourself more damage than good, okay? So that's just a little piece of the puzzle today. All right, mistake number 3. Thinking that if it's healthy, we can eat unlimited amounts, okay? And these calories don't count, or it doesn't matter, okay? Case in point, a lot of healthy fats, nuts, avocado are fabulous for you. Such great healthy fats. However, too much is still too much. And that's the simple fact of it. Everything that, even the healthy things and things that are excellent for you can still be in excess, and those things can all add up to you being not in a calorie deficit, hence either being in maintenance and you're just not losing any weight, you're not going here or there, or could be contributing to eventual weight gain if you do this consistently over time. Again, why I believe tracking is a great short-term tool is it can be so eye-opening. One of the first things I remember, I used to love to snack on nuts. I bring up nuts because it's a common thing that we love, and we know how healthy they are for us. I had no idea that the nuts that I was eating was probably contributing to about 500 or 600 calories a day just in what I thought was a snack. And that was just the smallest portion of my day. I still had my breakfast and I had my lunch, and I did not realize until I actually tracked and measured and weighed a portion size of, almonds, that I realized actually 1 ounce is probably about 100 and something calories. So again, it was just an eye-opener. It was an education. I didn't say, no, I can't have those nuts, which is what most people do. They say, okay, can't eat them, can't do it. Instead, you can say, yes, I can have those. It's just not in the amounts that I want to. And maybe instead of just having the bag of nuts and eating them loosely from the big bag, I actually provide myself a portion in another little bowl. And then I add in some strawberries or some cut up fruit to really bulk out this snack so that it's not just 6 tiny almonds, but it's actually some almonds, some strawberries, some berries, maybe a couple of apple slices, and all of a sudden that one snack becomes so much more fulfilling. Okay? So again, really important. A few tips around this. Healthy stuff is fabulous for you, but please be mindful of sticking to portion sizes or single servings. Common sizes might look like a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons max of extra virgin olive oil in your salad. I usually use about 120 calories for 1 tablespoon. I know this off by heart because I've tracked in my past, and so I know these things, and hence why once you've learned, So 120 calories of extra virgin olive oil mixed with my balsamic, etc. can be in. Now, if I just free pour that, how do I know what's going in there? So again, it's like being a little bit more strategic with your portions. actually getting out a tablespoon and pouring the olive oil into that before you put it into your salad so you can measure out what's going on. Avocado, love going to cafes and getting avocado toast, but the more and more I've been seeing lately is like when I actually look at my avocado toast that I get served, it's potentially a whole avocado, because they want to obviously bulk up what is really expensive toast in a cafe. They want to bulk it up and make sure that you're getting a lot of value out of that, which they usually, have a lot of the ingredients there for you. So again, it's just being mindful that maybe if you're at home, a quarter of an avocado is actually a serving of fats, the equivalent. And it's so deceiving as well. There are lots of things called health halos where on the packet it says gluten-free, dairy-free, preservative-free, and so good for you. Case in point, I was in the supermarket and there's veggie chips, for example, like made with sweet potato and beetroot and stuff like that. Now, when I turned the pack around to read the food labels, I took a pack of Smith's Crisps, regular potato chips, and I turned them around to compare just to see. They were the exact same calories, yet one perceived to be super healthy for you and the other one seemed to be bad, yeah? So be mindful that even these health halo products, still read your labels, still see what they are, and if anything, even have a look at other products similar to compare so that you can kind of get an idea. And again, this comes from more education in understanding your tracking, okay? Levula, 6 years later, and I still count 15 nuts for a snack. Agree. I know it seems like tedious. Don't get me wrong. I don't need to always count the nuts, okay? There will be times where you can eat 100 nuts and you don't care. This is not a forever thing. But if you are in a weight loss phase and you want to lose weight, then you will need to make some changes to those portions. And so you might need to measure it out because that's going to be the most accurate way for you to understand what's going on. Another example of that health halo, juice. There's a V8 veggie juice in the supermarket. I also looked at this. I wanted to see how many calories was in the juice. It was more than in a Coke. So be mindful of those beautiful health halos, fat-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, blah, 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 free. Always come back to looking at the calories on the food label, how many per serving, and nothing is bad, nothing is good. You just need to understand how much of that thing. If you want those veggie chips, just portion it out to understand what a serving size is. Is it a handful? And bulk it up with some other voluminous foods that will be maybe perhaps lower in calorie, like I said, with the nuts. Add some fruit to it or some veggie sticks. So that way you're actually creating more without actually breaking the calorie budget, okay? So, mistake number 4. I'm going to repeat them all just so that you know, just so that you get a full view. But mistake number 4, way underestimating our snacks, licks, sips, and bites. Again, you can't track what or manage what you don't measure, okay? And so many of my clients in the past have total memory loss when it comes to eating the crusts of your kid's plate of food, or whilst making dinner, you're drinking a glass of wine. And the thing is, often it's like when in Vegas, or when in Rome, or whatever, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I often hear when people actually write down in a food diary, they often leave these things out. The little crust. Oh, that just was this little crust that I ate from my kid's plate. Or the glass of wine, it's basically water. If you don't get real with yourself and start to take into account all of the licks, sips, and bites as well, unfortunately, if you do this often, it's quite surprising to see that all of these things might add up to a few hundred calories daily and could be the very thing stopping you from being in a deficit. So my goal around this is don't put your head in the sand, be really clear and be honest with yourself. You're not a failure for this. You're just being real and accurate. And that's the thing, it's actually just being honest and if you're guilty of this, there's no point in beating yourself down for this. It's just being like, okay, this is what I do. So what are some other options for me? Or do I just account for that in my calories? there's nothing wrong with eating while making dinner. Just write it in your food diary and account for it and make sure it contributes to what's going on so you know what you're working with. It's very much just like a pragmatic approach and learning about what's going on and not sticking your head in the sand. Okay, we've got 10 minutes left. Mistake number 5, and a huge one I work with on the program. And I left this particularly to last because a lot of people really struggle with this one. And it is the idea of good versus bad. Good versus bad food. One of the biggest things I had to work on in my personal journey was really unpacking the disordered relationship I had with food. I used to see everything as all or nothing, chocolate's bad, lettuce is good, and this constant idea that I needed to eat clean, and that was the way forward. I needed to eliminate all the cravings that I had. I needed to remove all the bad food from my house and my life, because as soon as I would eat 20 times more of it. And what I needed to actually do is that all of that work, all of that resistance, all of that continuous labeling of foods, good and bad, all that was doing was further reinforcing that disordered relationship with food, further reinforcing my binging. I have bulimia in my history. I used to binge a lot, especially my dance days. So I didn't even have a weight problem technically back then, but I had a really disordered relationship with food. So one of the biggest things that I wanted to do when I embarked on my weight loss journey post-retiring dance and gaining all that weight was not just lose the weight, but I actually wanted to like food again. I wanted to have a good relationship with food. I wanted to feel that I could eat that and not think I needed to eat 10 more of them because I was never going to get them again. And so I really did a lot of therapy around exposure therapy around, fear foods and foods that I used to think were banished from my household because I couldn't control myself. And through all of that work, which is now at the core of my program, I didn't know it back then, but hence now I love why I'm so passionate about it, is through all of that work of doing the work of building that better relationship with food. And there were challenging times. I had to really challenge myself. I had to keep things in my household that I never used to do or keep. I had to eat things that I never used to want to eat. I had to eat pizza in front of people and feel so embarrassed that I was eating pizza. Why did I feel this way? I think to myself now, it's just so crazy, but it was very real to me back then. It was such a struggle because I felt if I was eating pizza, then it was totally not in alignment with who I wanted to be. If I was eating pizza, it meant I wasn't serious about my weight loss journey. But actually, the very thing of challenging myself to eat the pizza and to do it properly and to portion control it, but still eat it, not eliminate it, not push it away from my life again, and to say that this could be included as part of my life. The very thing of actually exposing myself to that is the very reason why I can have pizza. I can have one slice now and be totally satisfied. But I could also have now one entire pizza to myself and also feel really good about it. Not guilty, not removing pizza from my diet for another year. So building a better relationship with food and the idea of good and bad is another common mistake that is keeping you stuck in this how much piece, because what you're trying to do by limiting the bad foods and keeping those labels alive, and by only trying to eat clean all week long, only to white knuckle your way through so you get to the weekend and then eat all the bad food there is, by you keeping that routine going, you're keeping yourself stuck in this disordered relationship with food, and you're going to keep yo-yoing back and forth through them. So one big thing that I challenge you, again, if this is maybe the only thing you get or you really resonate with this, then one big thing I want you to challenge yourself. This is not the challenge that I'm going to set for everyone, but a mini challenge, a challenge within a challenge. I want you to stop banking all of your fun food calories for the weekend, number one. And this idea of eating good all week versus bad on the weekend, or just good all the time until it gets bad. I want you to filter in some of the foods that you deem as bad into your week. And it doesn't have to be something that you can make a healthier version of it. Say, for example, tacos are a bad food in your terms, for example, if that's the case. Then I want you to have Taco Tuesday. But you can healthify it. You can make the tacos instead of with like a fatty cut of beef mince. Maybe you can make it with turkey instead. Maybe you can get a lower fat cheese instead. Maybe you can have avocado slices and you can control the portion and use a quarter of an avocado or half an avocado instead of getting pre-made guacamole and just having endless amounts of that on it with the sour cream, etc. You can make healthier versions. You can share it with somebody so you eat half the calories, etc. But you don't miss out. I want you to go out on a Wednesday night and have a pizza night. And I want you to order maybe one pizza but share it with a partner. Or if it's just you dining out on your own, have one pizza and maybe quarter it out. So you freeze a quarter, and that means you get 2 pieces of pizza or 3 pieces of pizza, and you freeze the rest, or you give it away to a friend the next day, or you bring it around to a friend's house the next day, or you eat leftovers the next day. But alongside that couple of pieces of pizza, I want you to make a massive salad so that you're not hungry as well. Maybe you add some grilled chicken pieces in there so you've got a bit of protein, but then you still have the 2 pieces of pizza with it. So that can be on a Wednesday. You don't have to save it for a Saturday. The more you enjoy, I'm going to really emphasize this, the more you incorporate an all foods fit approach, the more you incorporate 80-20. I'm not saying that pizza should be the 100% feature of your nutrition, because let's face it, you're going to feel really crappy. You're not going to have energy. You're not going to move your best. You're not going to feel your best. I still want you to have a whole foods 80% approach, but that sprinkling of fun foods throughout your life doesn't have to have a designated spot only remained for weekends or when you think you've been good, therefore you deserve them. We deserve so many things. You deserve food just because you deserve food, not because you've done something good. You're not a dog that needs to be rewarded. You deserve to eat no matter what it is. So what I want you to try and do is, this is a mini challenge within a challenge, is challenge yourself this week ahead to have a fun food in your weekday, especially if you're currently on a weight loss plan or you're trying to be in a calorie deficit. Then make those calories fit to factor in that food. It's obviously not on top of your calories. It's make it fit. If you have X amount of calories to work with, then make that slice or 2 or 3 of pizza fit within that. And then everything else goes around it. If you want a chocolate bar today, have the chocolate bar, but make sure 80% of the rest of your day is still filled with foods that will fuel you. And that chocolate bar is not the food that will fuel you, but it will fuel you as well because it's energy dense, but it's also going to give you the pleasure that comes from food, because food is not just fuel. Food is also fun. And the more you can get this mindset on board, the better your relationship with food is going to improve. Now, I cannot change your entire relationship with food in one hour masterclass, but my goal today is really just to get you thinking about these 5 common mistakes. How many do you feel you're resonating with? Okay, I'm putting it to you. How many of the 5 mistakes? Let's recap what they are. Number 1, going far too extreme in your deficit and trying to go as low as possible to lose as quickly as possible. Number 2 was undereating that led to overeating. If you're trying to minimize all of your calories throughout your day and eat really little like a birdie, you end up snacking all the time. Number 3 was thinking that the healthy foods you're eating, you could eat in unlimited amounts. Number 4, underestimating or kind of putting a little bit of a blind eye, turning a blind eye to the licks, sips, and bites you might be having throughout your day that you're not really tracking or you're not really kind of paying attention to. And number 5, the idea of good versus bad. How many of you are constantly trying to white knuckle it, eating clean food? What's clean food? Clean food is food that you wash. Food without dirt, okay? That's what I call clean food. I hate this term because food labels should not exist. Food is not a moral value. Food is not good, not bad. There is a absolute continuum of healthier options to less healthy options. And I always want you to have 80%, majority of your diet. Yes, we want to keep you fueled with the best quality foods possible so that you feel your best. But there's room for everything. It's just getting that portion right. Okay, 4 and 5, 1, 3 and 5, 2, 3 and 4 to some degree, 4 or 5. Awesome. Okay, so quite a few of you are experiencing a lot of these. So for those who let's just come back to number 5. You've got an extra challenge this week. Your challenge is to challenge yourself to have a portion of some fun foods in your week. And especially if you're the type of person that likes to leave things for the weekend because that's when you deserve it, then I want you to try and really challenge yourself to know that you can have that food anytime. Just make it fit within your calories for that day. So today's challenge task is really going to be coming back to yourself on your current food intake. And this is a task that I want all of you to do if you're ready to change, if you're ready to make and educate yourself and empower yourself with food and nutrition education. This is going to be your first step today, your first part of the journey, okay? Even if you track and you already are tracking, I still want you to do this, okay? So today's challenge task is going to be coming back to that education piece. And the thing we often have is portion distortion. We don't know. We have problems with portion sizes. We don't know what we're eating and we have no idea. So a lot of us, think that they're undereating, but when accurately tracked, they're actually not. They're overeating and you're probably not in a deficit. On the other end of the spectrum, I find that a lot of people think that they're eating too much, when in actual fact, the reason why they're too hungry all the time is because their deficit is too low and you can actually more and still lose weight. So your task is, if you don't have an app, I recommend you download one for the second part of this task, but you could also use Google. It just won't be as accurate. But your task is on a piece of paper. So let's go basic. First of all, pen to paper. I want you to number 1, not change a thing of what you intended on eating today. So don't be the person that says, okay, I've started with Gina. She's done her masterclass. I'm now going to eat really clean and only good foods today because this is day 1. I want you to eat whatever you planned on eating. You had to go to dinner tonight. You were having McDonald's for the daytime. I don't care. I want you just to document every single thing that goes into your mouth today. And even if you want to go specific, you can write what time. Pen to paper, everything that you eat, licks, sips and bites, all of the above, everything you drink as well, if it's not water, because your multiple cappuccinos could be the one thing that's contributing to 200 or 300 calories in excess that you didn't even realize. So these are the things. I want you to write it all down, but do not write the calories. Okay, so write it all down. I know that in the States, it's Sunday night. So this is going to be applying for you guys tomorrow. And so that means your Monday is going to give you a full day. Okay, so I'm going to post a check-in tonight, a post in this group that's going to apply to day 1's challenge task. Okay, and you just check in when you've completed day 1. So whatever time zone you're in, you just check in when it's the end of the full day in your area, okay? Because some people are in London and Europe. They're only going to be watching this as a replay, okay? And so they're only going to be checking in probably tomorrow. So your job is to write everything you have eaten, every snack, everything. Chocolate bars, doesn't matter. Do not change a thing. Go about your day as a normal Sunday. If you are having donuts, I love, going to cafes on Sunday. So write it all down. And if you can be as specific as possible with the amounts you had, even better. Okay, because that's going to make this a lot more accurate. So for example, you had a whole bag of Smith's crisps. Write down the amount of the bag. Like, was it 125 grams or whatever your weight is in? Or did you have 5 apples or 2 apples? Did you have a few tablespoons of sugar in your coffee? Write it all down, okay? At the end of this, once you've done your full day, I want you to estimate what you think, guesstimate what you think that was in calories in terms, okay? So just write down a total blanket calorie estimation, okay? You have no idea, don't look anything up, but I want you to calculate what you think it might be, okay? Then part 2 of the challenge is then you're going to actually log into an app or Google each and every single item and amount, which is why if you can be as clear as possible to the amounts that you had in every aspect. A lot of things, like if you went to, for example, McDonald's and had a cheeseburger medium meal today, then a lot of McDonald's nutrition calories and everything are on their website, and they would all be in a calorie tracking app as well. So be as specific to when you're writing down pen to paper what you actually had and the sizes and everything and the amounts, okay? So after you've done that and you've put the guesstimate, I want you to actually work it out properly. So part 2 is go into a tracking app or Google each and every item and actually see what it is. And then I've got a couple of questions around what you found, okay? And that is going to be the check-in post. You can use Lose-In. Margot says, I use the Lose It app. Yep, Lose It. There's Mike's Macros, MyFitnessPal, whatever app that is easiest for you to use, okay? And maybe this is going to be a good exercise for you just to get familiar with it. YouTube has so many tutorials around how to use each and every app, but don't overcomplicate it, because really I just want you to track and calculate every single thing that you've recorded on pen and paper so that you get the real calorie information at the end of the day. So your guesstimate, and then I want to see your actual, okay? Because we often do have portion distortion. I want to see how you go. I want to see how many people feel they're overestimated, underestimated, because then that will give you a little bit of a clue as to what's happening next, but also empower you with some knowledge. What did you learn? There's going to be a couple of questions to answer. Mariana says Fitbit app is already great as well. Fantastic. Okay, so as I said, measure and weigh as you can. Don't change the way you eat. Just write it down. You had a glass of wine, write it down. Everything. Guesstimate, and then part 2 is writing down what it actually was. And I cannot wait to see the findings. That is going to be in the check-in post. So you will see this post go out in a few hours. Remember, only check in and answer the questions for your check-in after you have completed your full day, okay? And I cannot wait to see the answers to this check-in. I'm keeping you accountable. So I've seen at least 100 of you on this call. I want to see at least 100 check-ins, because ultimately, if you're not doing the work, then nothing changes if nothing changes. So let's start getting educated and being empowered, okay? Tomorrow's challenge is a different challenge altogether. Today, we really just started to tackle the surface level of the how much equation, okay? And also, I'm going to chat to you because somebody asked, so what should my calorie deficit be? After you've done today's challenge, I'm also going to give you one small step in the right direction tomorrow before we begin the what aspect. So tomorrow, we're going to talk about the second foundational key step that you need to know when it comes to the weight loss journey, and that is the piece of the puzzle, what to eat, okay? This is a really important one, and how to optimize what to eat. That's coming at you tomorrow. I can't wait to see you all back here, same time, same place. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope I've left you with a few things that has resonated with you and may have even sparked that little light bulb moment around your behavior, around something that's happening. I'm going to leave you with one question. Yes, same time, Mimi, 9:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, same time tomorrow. I'm going to ask you one question before I finish up, and that is, what's your one biggest takeaway from today? Let's go, everybody. What's your one biggest takeaway One biggest takeaway. I will get some rest tonight. After this, I'm going to go and call my husband to see if there are any updates on his surgery. Thank you so much. Don't you worry about me. One thing I know that I've really worked hard on is putting myself first, because I can't do this and show up for you if I don't give back to myself. So I've really, outside of being needed to be there for my husband, I've really given back to myself and given myself some rest time this week as well. And I had some good sleeps over the weekend. So I am definitely taking care of myself. Okay. I don't have to starve to lose weight. Kelly, no, you don't. You don't have to bank your good food for the weekend. Yes, you don't, Kareen. Not realizing how much I'm probably eating. Mary, this is going to be such an education for you. Getting back on track, Mariana. Susan, bites, licks, taste count. They absolutely do. Rebecca, eating too little during the day can cause my binges at night. Absolutely. And tomorrow, Rebecca, we're going to make this even better about how you plate up your food and what you can do to even make those meals better and bulk them up so that you're not going to constantly feel the need of, getting to 5 o'clock and realizing that you're absolutely starving. And therefore you need to eat everything in the kitchen sink, plus the kitchen sink. Holly, eating too early in the day to save up. Yes. Okay, Holly, maybe we're going to change the way you eat today. Trial something new. June, we are pretty much the same despite our differences. Oh yes, we really are. A lot of us struggle with the same things. I feel you on this. Maybe there's a way to incorporate your favorite foods without going overboard. And there is. It sounds scary, I know. And initially you might overeat them. Be aware of that. But guess what? When you expose yourself enough times, that shiny value that you've applied and that control that you've given to that food starts to dissipate. It really does. But you got to put in the work, and it takes time. It's not going to be changed in one masterclass. Yeah. It's constant work, and why I dedicate a whole week in my program to fun foods only, because I want to challenge you specifically on bettering that relationship with food. So yeah, you need time. There are so many different ways to overeat. Yes. My deficit might be too low. Interested to see what you think. Well, it might be. So I'm interested to see what your check-in's going to be like, Jessica. I'm bummed I missed this. Hey, the replay is going to be saved to the featured section of this group. So come back and rewatch it. Ashley, this is realistic. Sally, I like to hear that 200 calories less a day can lead to weight gain over a year without feeling deprived. It can be as simple as that. 200 calories doesn't actually equal to that much, but we think we need to go so far extreme to get it going, and it's actually not. Yes, it's going to be slower. That 9 kilos might take you a year, but you probably won't find that 9 kilos back again because you would have done it in a way that's sustainable. That's the thing. Slowing down, no timelines, focus on what's sustainable. Oh my gosh, so many amazing that I need to start counting all the foods, licks, tastes. Oh yes, fastest weight loss isn't the best. It might be what we think we need to do, or we're told that we need it. And it sounds enticing, don't get me wrong. But every time I tried to do it that way, I ended up actually gaining weight somehow. So yeah, just really understanding that. Danielle, there is no good and bad, and weight loss can be fun and sustainable. And you know this, Danielle, because you did the last round of 0 to 5, which I'm so proud of. Thank you. Kimberly, I have no ideas how many calories I need despite counting for nearly 2 years. Again, something that I really want to educate you with, and we're going to come back to this, so going to loop back tomorrow, but I want you to do the exercise that I really, if you've been counting calories for so long, you really need to be educated by this. And to be honest, you've probably been doing it for way too long and haven't learned how to balance your food on your plate, to learn how to essentially track without tracking. And so I'm going to chat about this tomorrow. So tomorrow's call will be very interesting for you. Slow and steady wins the race. Be the turtle, everybody, not the hare. Just 200 calories. Bites, licks, sips. Oh, so much of the same. Eating when I come home from work. I need to plan out my plate better. Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so, so glad. Pardon me. I'm getting back on track to have a better relationship with food. Woo. Wow. Track without tracking. Balancing your plate is everything. Okay, everybody. See you in the check-in and see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. You are amazing. These realizations are amazing. And I cannot wait to see more of them. Okay, bye for now.